Hey guys, Noise Residence here, back with another Ableton Live tutorial. Today I'm going to be giving a tutorial showing you how to make a high-pitched screech whoop, which you'll hear in most dubstep and sometimes Moombaton. I actually don't know why they name it Moombaton. It sounds like some sort of elephant hitting a drum, or I don't know. Anyway, let's get started. So we're going to be making this sound. You're going to be hearing it most dubstep. So first oscillator, square saw, all the way to the left. We're going to be using a square wave since it has more presence than a saw wave. And a saw wave, it just has more presence to it, makes it more grittier. Intensity all the way to the right, amp all the way to the left. Take it down 2 octaves. VA sync, pulse saw sync, very interesting wave shape since it can make some vowel sounds. Actually, you can make some Daft Punk-ish sound with it if you can play around with it. Maybe you can experiment yourselves, which I really highly recommend everyone to do, and or maybe you can YouTube it and be a lazy ass like me. Anyway, take it down an octave. We're gonna write alt to pulse, the sync all the way to the left, and amp all like 1 o'clock position. We're not using the oscillator 3. Now what I noticed with this, if you actually use an LFO on it and use it in these settings here, I just found this like 4 minutes ago when I was going to record this patch here. It actually sounds like Dr. P's song, Borgor, I think. Remove the square saw. Down a bit. If you know the title of the song, I'm not sure of the title of the song, put it in the description below. I think it's pretty much Borgor, but if it's not, then give it to me in the description. I'd like to know. So we're not using oscillator 3. Insert 1, a hard clipper. Drive around the 1 o'clock position. Pause the letter E. Dry wet. Make sure it's pointing to the E. Yeah, in between the W and the E, the hard clipper setting. Parabolic shaper. Around 10 o'clock position in the dry wet, and the drive around 9:30 position. Right. So filter 1, we're gonna be using a Daft filter. I really like how it sounds since it sounds very normalized. For usually bass sounds I use low pass, but Daft sounds very cool, very cool. So cut off all the way up, resonance all the way down, crank the volume up. Effects 1, phasers. I actually like to discuss about the phasers since most people say it doesn't play a role. But I found in most dubstep tracks that it should be more dynamic, which means lots of modulation, lots of movement. So if you'd like the sound, I mean, that's a pretty solid sound. It's pretty solid sound, sounds really good. But you can take a step further and you can actually add a phaser to it, add some movement to it. Maybe add the depth a bit. The feedback a bit. See, it has that little movement to it. So that's really good for dubstep. Take it one step further. So you want reverb small in the effects too, since without it, listen to it. It sounds like a pretty dead stop, like a car hitting a brick wall. So it doesn't sound really that good. I mean, it does sound good, but it sounds pretty dry since there's no release time to it. It just stops there dead. So it doesn't sound really that interesting. Putting a small reverb, it actually adds some size to it. It makes the sound blended in, as you can say. So the settings are here. Dry wet a bit up, around 8:45ish position in the size, just towards the 9 o'clock position. Density all the way up, and color all the way up. See, it has a small release time, which actually serves as a release for the sound. So you might want to add that there. High shelf. So you're gonna be in the EQ. You're gonna be adding a bit of a high shelf and lower the low shelf. So we actually want to lower the low shelf, since if you want to be layering, and I'm guessing that most people are going to be layering dubstep growls, So the growl is basically going to occupy the mid low or the mid low ends. So we're going to be leaving some headroom there by just putting the low shelf just a bit. Add some headroom there, and this thing's going to be occupying the high shelf. So next we're going to be going is the voicing. Unisono to 5, polyphonic, legato, pan position on, and we're going to turn it all the way to the right so it goes to the edge of the speakers. And the first envelope, which is the only envelope we're going to be using to modulate the sound, is the first envelope. You want to copy these settings, attack just before the letter A, level all the way up, decay up, level all the way up. Didn't really change anything here, so you want to make it look like this form. Right, so you want to be modulating it to the amp of the square saw to add a little bit of movement to it. So without it, here's how it sounds. Or if you just crank it up, or if we just leave it here, see how it blocks like the sound a bit. So we want to put some modulation into it so it gets leveled when the screech actually hits. So I found that really good. So the VA sync, you want to route this to the sinks, and this actually is the one that makes it sound, you could say. This is actually the one that makes the sound, since without it, it sounds like a pad. No modulation going on except for the phasing and the amp. So this actually makes the sound. So this is actually very important. Again, I urge all of you to experiment with the pull saw. You can make lots of cool stuff, even some funky beats with it. So that's pretty much it. If you're happy with that sound, then you can pretty much close the video, but there's some additional stuff that I'd like to discuss. Those people who want more modulation going on. So before that, I'm going to discuss the EQing a bit. So the EQ. So you might want to add an EQ in it. Raise the high shelf a bit. Raise the high frequencies, and around 1K there's this screeching frequencies in the mids. So you might want to lower the headphone for this, since those screech your ears. See how it has that like screeching sound to it a bit. There. So you wanna, I hope you're not all deaf after that. So you wanna make a medium sized Q, you could say around this size, 2.11, and you just want to reduce the low, the mids just a bit, just to remove that screeching sound, and you raise the higher frequencies to really bring out that screech without having to destroy your eardrums after it. So that's basically it. For those who still want more for the modulation, then you should pay attention. For those who are happy with the sound, then you can go now. Basically, that's it. So here in most dubstep, for those people who are actually going to be using this for a complex sound, then you can actually use this for like if you're going to use this for like a millisecond for like complex stroke, complex electro, or like complex dubstep, then you're pretty much happy with the sound, since you're going to be using the sound only. But for those with modulation, are going to be using this for like a breakdown lead or like a drop synth, this main synth. So I actually prepared a performer here, which you can route to the sync only. So we're going to be routing it to the amp, just the sync. So here's how it is. If we use a LFO, if we use a 6th LFO and turn it to performer, ratio 1:12. X-played sequence. I'm just gonna play. So basically that's how it sounds. That's basically how it sounds. So that's basically how I saw it to be dubstep-ish, while this one would be more, while on the bottom would be more dynamic drum step. So that's basically it. Play with the automations. Especially the performer, it's really helpful getting those intense beats going. You can even cross both of these over, so you can get a wet sound from it, like those Skrillex sounds. Maybe add some more drive to it, give it some more grit. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you like this tutorial, make sure to subscribe. Check out my music on SoundCloud. Share this to your friends if you want. If you have some fellow producers there, send me some feedback or some messages and I'll make sure to answer them. That should probably be it. See ya. Cheers.